What's upper? I'm Prima, and welcome to the Just Prima Show. Tonight, you're going to find out all about me. Stay tuned.
If you think you knew me, you didn't really know it all. I've been through my share of struggles and I'm still here standing tall. Never the type to fold, if I fall I wouldn't fear. I'm giving you all of me, this my blood, love and tears. If you think you knew me, you didn't really know it all. I've been through my share of struggles and I'm still here standing tall. Never the type to fold, if I fall I wouldn't fear. I'm giving you all of me, this my blood, love and tears.
So, tonight, I have Caribbean Life's own Rosolo the Phoenix, who's here to ask questions that you want to know about Just Prima. So, Miss Ro, thank you for joining me tonight and taking time out of your busy schedule to come here and interview me and ask the questions that people want to know.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I am truly blessed and honored to be here. It's going to be a great night. It's going to be a great interview. I look forward to talking to you. So are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to get.
So as you said before, first of all, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share in this with you, because I know this is very important. Your vision has come to fruition, and congratulations. So thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Thank you.
As you said before, we're here tonight to get a deeper vision of who is Prima, right? Who is Prima? And you are a Phoenix, and I know, and you know that I love to highlight Phoenixes. So, and you've risen from so many challenges throughout your life, and that's what we want to share and highlight with your audience. So let's take it back. We're going to start from the very beginning. So let's take it back to your childhood, right? And tell us a little bit about Prima as a child. Where was Prima born? Where did Prima grow up? Tell us about your childhood.
Okay. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, at Fort McPherson, which is a military base. My parents were military, Navy, and Marine. I went to Christian school from 3-year-old kindergarten till like 5th grade. I thought my family was picture perfect. Mom, dad, the 3 kids, the house. We didn't have any animals. Excuse me, at that time, we didn't have any animals. Later.
So what changed the vision of it being picture perfect? And when did that vision change? Was it early in your childhood? Or
early.
It was early at what age?
About 10 years old.
And what made the picture change?
The picture changed because I found a document that I didn't know what it was at the time. Later now I know that it was a Social Security card, but it had a different last name on it than the last name I was accustomed to writing. I asked my parents and I got a long explanation that I didn't quite understand or didn't know. I felt like I was deceived, let me say that. And from that, it changed my perspective on adults, parents, and the family that I grew up in.
So basically you were adopted?
By my father.
By your father. And so you felt some type of deception based from when you found out about it?
Correct.
And so how did your parents handle it?
I was sent out the room first, which seemed to be a long time. I don't know how long it was because I was a kid, but it was too long because I was a very inquisitive child. I asked a lot of questions. As much as I talk now, I spoke then.
Yeah.
So the questions that I had, they didn't answer them right away. When they answered them, they gave an explanation. My mother had been married previously. The grandparents that had been visiting were my biological father's parents.
Okay.
But I didn't know that because no one gave me an explanation. As an adult now, I understand why, but as a child, I did not. Going forward, I winded up experiencing molestation.
So let's pause a little bit. So when you talk about you said you were adopted by your father. So your mom raised you, your biological mom.
Correct.
But you still felt deception. You still felt that you were deceived because of because your mom didn't tell you. But you said you had a picture perfect family.
I thought.
So why being adopted? Because there are many people out there that are adopted. I have family that's adopted.
Right.
So it didn't change their perception. Some of them experienced anger, but it didn't change their perception of the love that they felt in the family. Some of them got angry and felt deceit, but they never, if the family was picture perfect and they were receiving this love, what was so drastic for it not to be picture perfect anymore?
Well, for me, I grew up in a house that was predominantly Christian.
Okay.
Okay, so we were told to tell the
Truth.
truth, and I had been asked questions prior to that where it's like, why do you look different? Why is your hair different than your siblings? Why are you lighter than your siblings? Why are you shorter than your siblings? Or questions that I guess children would ask, not necessarily adults. I never felt any different from the family per se.
Right.
But I had some ABC after school special moments where I was like, oh my God, I'm adopted, and this answers the question as
Yeah.
to why I'm different.
You put everything in perspective at
Right.
that point.
As a 9-year-old child, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned, you alluded to just now, you experienced molestation at a very early age.
Which changed my perspective also.
Again, so tell us a little bit about that. How old were you when you experienced your molestation?
The first time, probably maybe 7 or 8, and from a childhood friend that I probably wouldn't have understood as molestation at the time. It was like experimenting. At 11, from a family member that cultivated the art in me because I like to draw, I like to do calligraphy. And from that, again, finding out that adults don't always tell the truth. Because when I was told, it was denied. And although my parents believed me, the person that violated me did not tell the truth. So that, again, changed my perspective on what my life was, what was truth, my childhood, and my innocence, because I began to, that was another thing that caused me to believe that adults don't always tell the truth and things aren't always as they seem.
So you mentioned that 1, 2, 3 times, 2 times that you were molested as a child?
Correct. 3.
Okay, and so that changed. So in between, so there's the molestation, and then there is the finding out that you were adopted by your father. So all that's happening in a scope of about 3-4 years. So you have a lot of frustration and anger as a
Correct.
child. So now we're entering teen years,
Okay.
right? And we have this child who is frustrated, who feels deceit, that she was deceived, who's possibly confused, angry. How did you approach your teen years?
I approached my teen years feeling, besides deceived, feeling rejected, feeling abandoned from more so my biological father, because like you don't know that you're broke until you find out you're broken. So things were good until I found out otherwise, so to speak. My parents in my home, they were going through marital problems. So in their marital problems, we began to see that in the household. I'm the oldest child. There were some things that I felt like I needed to protect my mother from, or I wanted my siblings to join in to help protect my mother from certain things. Not that my mother couldn't protect herself, but me standing in because that's just who I am.
And how old were you when you felt that you needed to protect your mom?
Probably 13, 12, 13.
Okay.
I remember leaving home in the middle of the night to, I guess, get us away from the confusion that was going on at the time, things that I didn't understand as a child. I remember going to church, going to counseling, like speaking with one of the counselors at the church, who I was able to talk and be myself, and I could talk about anything, and hey, this is going on in the family, and this is going on in the family, and I wasn't judged. I was able to be transparent and express exactly what I was feeling. Moving forward in my teenage years, I sang in the choir, I was active in the choir, and knew I wanted to grow up and be something different, and then life changed because I got pregnant as a teenager.
So that's why I was gonna. You went right into it. So you and I have something in common. We both were teen moms. Your experience is a lot different because I became a teen mom after high school later, right? You became a teen mom during high school at the age of 16. Well, you got pregnant at 15. So all this is happening, and then you experience what a lot of young women experience in high school. We have that first time, that first moment. So tell everyone what happened in your first moment, who it was with, how it happened, and how it led up to your pregnancy.
Well, that's a big question. My first experience was not with who I got pregnant by. My first experience,
Well, I passed the molestation. I'm sorry, I
right,
should have said that.
and beyond that.
Yeah, beyond that.
My first experience, my parents were arguing and they were going through their changes. My dad told me to leave the house because he thought I came home late from school off the school bus, and I really didn't. He told me to leave. I left. I went to my neighbor's house, and in going to my neighbor's house, they were young ladies that were already sexually active.
So when he told you to leave, is this leave for the evening or leave for the permanently?
Get out. Get out.
Because of the school bus? Is that what you're saying?
Right. He thought I had gotten off the school bus late. Prior to this, I had gotten into a fight at school.
Okay,
months before.
So she didn't tell us that part, y'all. She didn't tell us she
Right.
got a fight in school.
Right.
So
months prior to.
Well, your dad is mad now.
He's just mad.
Okay.
All the time at this point.
All the time.
So yeah, he was all the time. So at this particular time, he told me to leave the house because he thought I got off the school bus late. And this is at the end of the school year. So the school buses show up whenever they show up. And I'm like, Dad, I didn't get off the school bus late. He was like, oh, yes, you did. Get out, because he worked at night. So when he woke up,
Gotcha.
I was there. So he assumed I was late. Anyway, he told me to leave. And in telling me to leave, I went to the neighbor's house who they were already sexually active. I wasn't. As a teenager, you're told that sex is going to be exciting, it's fun, you have something to look forward to. Needless to say, because I was with my neighbors, everybody went to a hotel. And when they went to a hotel, it was a gentleman that liked me. And in liking me, because when everybody broke off to go in their separate areas, I was left with this particular person.
So that's who you had
that was my
experience
first
with.
experience. It was not fun. It wasn't exciting, and that's not who I got pregnant by.
So let's talk
End of
about
story.
your pregnancy. Let's talk about that first experience. That first pregnancy when you learned that you're now 15 years old and you've gone through so much. Are you in the house now? Or are you still with these friends?
I'm
Where are you
back at
living?
home.
You're back at home, and so now you're pregnant,
Right.
and you have to tell your parents, or you
Right.
found out.
Right.
And what is Prima's reaction to being pregnant?
Because I talk all the time, I was able to tell my parents. Was I disappointed in myself because I knew I had disappointed them? Absolutely. I felt like the person that I got pregnant by was somebody that we were two dysfunctional kids that came from two dysfunctional homes. We both went to the same church. We spoke with the same minister at the church, and we had something in common, dysfunction. His house had issues going on with his parents. My household had issues going on with my parents.
So you found refuge in each other.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Got pregnant. When we got pregnant, I think my mother knew. She could tell that there was a change because I was sleeping more. I knew I would keep my baby. My father was like, oh, you're going to give that baby up for adoption? And I was like, no, I'm not.
Was there ever a thought to get rid of the baby?
No, because in church, I grew up in church.
Right,
So in church, it was like, abortion is wrong. And adoption was not what I felt like people like me would do.
And so at 15, you're saying to yourself, I'm going to keep this baby.
Correct.
And I'm going to take care of this baby.
Correct.
And how did you think at 15 that you were going to do that?
Go to work.
At 15?
I did.
Where'd you work?
I worked at a hair salon. My cousin had a hair salon, and I made wefts for tracks, hair tracks on in. I shampooed. I helped her put in perm and stuff like that. And that is what helps me be independent and do things for my child once my child was born.
Okay. And so you're still in high school?
Correct. I'm in high school. I was sent a letter in the mail telling me that I could no longer participate in the teen activities at my church because I was pregnant and I was not 18, so I could not participate in the young adult ministry. So at that point, I was pretty much at home.
So you were kicked out of you were kicked out of the programs that has sustained you and kept you focused. So all the teen
Correct.
programs, because I understand that because I had teen programs too.
Right.
So luckily I was 18. So, so you were kicked out of the programs that sort of sustained your mental,
Right.
your mindset.
Right.
And so when you were kicked out of that, you have this baby, you're working, but you've lost that comfort.
Mm-hmm.
How did you focus and keep moving through that?
Well,
Or did you focus and keep moving through it?
Well, during my pregnancy, I had my mother and my grandmother who encouraged me and always said that you're not the first girl to have a baby. You won't be the last.
Right.
It doesn't matter what people say and what people think about you. It's what you think about yourself. I, again, feeling abandoned or rejected from probably my friends and close relatives like my cousins, that, you know, I was judged, although some of them had sex before me. I just happened to keep my baby. During that pregnancy, I determined in myself, my prayer became, God, teach me to love and accept people as they are, because all of us have a story,
Right.
and all of us come from something, and people judge and they don't know. My mom went to Lamaze classes with me, so I wasn't ostracized at home. I had my baby, and I was able, now the father was still a part of my life indirectly.
Where's your adopted father?
My adopted father is at home. That's the one that told me to leave. But that's
Right, the
same
one that
father.
I know. You're back home now, and you're saying
Right.
your mom is going to Lamaze classes with you. So
Right.
your mom is part of the pregnancy. She's helping you. But where's the person that kicked you out? What's he doing? How's he feeling about this?
He's at the house. He was disappointed at first. He didn't communicate all the time. You know, he worked at night. He's a male. He worked at night. He was a provider. But during that time, they were still going through their separation process. So once I had my son, then we moved out the house from my dad.
Okay, so you and your mom. And so you had your son, you moved out the house, and there's pregnancy number 2.
Oh, pregnancy number 2 was after we were out of the house, after, well, later on. Like, I had the second son a year later. I had gotten married because the church said, get married, do the right thing. My grandmother and my aunts and uncles, that's the right thing to do. So I got married.
So you got married because of the church, your grandmothers, your aunts, uncles.
Correct, not my parents.
Not your parents.
My parents told
And
me not to.
not for you.
Well, I felt like I loved him, and I felt like he loved me as much as you can at 17. But I was 17. So now I would say no. But I felt like my grandmother and my aunts and uncles who were ministers, I felt like they had a throne up in heaven next to Jesus
I understand.
Christ.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
of
they
course.
had influence over
And that's
me.
the key to the ministry of the church, right?
Right.
We follow the church, and we have the deacons and the pastors and the all the mentors in the church, and you look up to them.
Right.
So what they say is bond.
Right.
And most often, especially a child who's a teen who feels that she has disgraced the church,
Correct.
is looking for some salvation.
Correct.
So you're going to listen to them. So you got married.
Mm-hmm.
And how was that?
I think we probably behaved as normal 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, like infidelity.
How long were you married?
From 17 to 25.
From 17 to 25. And during that time, how many children did you have?
From 17 to 25, I had 3 more. So a total of 4. A total of 4 by the time I was 20.
4 living in the house with him. And you alluded to infidelity. So tell us a little bit about that. So you're 17, 18, 19.
Okay.
Right? Most kids were in high school or were getting ready to go to college.
Correct.
I understand the plight of being a mom at 18, right? I don't as much because at 18 you had how many by now? How many children?
2.
2.
Just
I don't
2.
understand. I struggled with 1. But so you have 2 children and you're married. So you're maintaining a household.
Correct.
How was Prima mentally during that time?
I've always been independent and determined. So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to be married and I'm going to live happily ever after. And I thought that the women in my family were cursed because all of them were divorced.
Okay,
and I
so
wanted
take
something
me,
different.
I'm going to pause you for a second because I want you to take me to the moment.
The moment?
To in the home, 2 babies, 18 years old. You can't tell me that. How did Prima feel? 18 years old, day to day, 2 children. 18 years old. I know how I felt at 18 with a baby. And
for me, I don't know how. I don't feel like it was a lot of stress because I had support of my family.
Yeah.
I was able to continue to go to school.
Nice.
My children were able to go to daycare.
Nice.
I was able to work. My grandmother would watch the children after daycare so that I could work and go to school.
It wasn't the average teen. You had a lot of support.
I had some support. with
lots
the
of
price.
well, all things come with a price when we have children. That part we didn't realize when we were teens. If we knew what would happen when we got to that part, we probably wouldn't do that part, right? Because there's a cost. There's a huge financial cost. But you had people taking care. Some people don't have people. You had,
Correct.
and it
Some
was still
type of support
function
system.
and you had a schedule. You had a functional support system.
Correct.
You were doing well at 18. I mean, you had some semblance of a structure.
Correct.
You were going to school still. Kudos to you.
I was able to finish.
You were working still. Kudos to you. You had established daycare for your child,
Correct.
right? Safe daycare for your child. So
Children. Yeah.
yeah, that was better than most 40-year-olds, as far as I'm concerned, right? Right.
Right. But we had, you have, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, we had
Yeah, tell me about the marriage.
CAPS, like the child care assistance that helped pay for that.
Yeah.
Marriage.
Marriage. Let's
Marriage,
talk about the marriage. Let's talk about the marriage.
Marriage. I feel like I grew up overnight, and I feel like he behaved as the average 17, 18, 19-year-old, like the friends that came in that were going to college.
Yeah.
Eventually, he wanted to hang with them.
Yeah.
Going to the clubs, the infidelity, the staying out some nights, staying out the whole weekend, me stressed out, because of prior things that had happened with him. I remember
This is the place you tell the prior things.
violence, violence on my part, like showing up, showing out,
Please
so.
share. I mean, I'm nosy. I don't drink my water. I mind my business. Share. I'm not asking you to go too deep or tell it, but just I want to hear about the violence on your report. I mean, I think we all want to hear about what you did. What did you do? Not that she's saying we're going to do a disclaimer, ladies.
Well, it's all right.
Whatever she says, which I don't know what she's going to say, please don't go out and do it tonight if you're angry and disgruntled. That's not what we're telling you to do. She's sharing her experience with you. She's not advising you to go and do the same. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So what craziness did you do?
Well, at 17, 18, 19 years old, I remember seeing, my grandmother said she saw somebody in my car, somebody else driving my car, and he was in my car with the other person. Me trying to find out who this person is. I'm like, take me to the house. I want to see who it is. My issue necessarily wasn't with the other woman. It was with him, but I wanted to see. I remember my car being somewhere else, and my best friend saw my car, so I remember knocking on everybody's door until I found him, like, hey, what's up? Like, what's going on? Or I remember clothes that I had purchased. I remember setting them on fire. I remember busting out windows and, flattening tires and shooting in the parking lot at him and somebody else that was related to me. So those things were things that I did when I was younger, 17, 18, 19.
You've established that she's 17,
Yes.
18, 19.
So when you don't know what to do with your emotions, getting married young, someone that doesn't understand, when you're people that don't understand the union of marriage and not being able to control. And I was angry. I was disappointed. I was hurt. And then all of that, eventually I said, hey, we don't need to be together anymore because we're not healthy together. And our children will not have a mother because I'll probably be in prison and you'll probably be in the grave. So I divorced after a few times of trying to get divorced, and he didn't want to because, he felt like I was a good girl, but I changed being with him.
So at the age of 25, you got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 4 children.
Correct.
What do you do? What do you do?
But he had been in and out of Georgia Penitentiary.
So
I had already been surviving.
So during the because you didn't mention that. You said divorce. So during your marriage, he was incarcerated.
Correct.
17 to 25. How many years during your marriage was he incarcerated? How many times was he incarcerated?
Probably 3 times, and then being incarcerated those 3 times, probably a total of maybe 6 or 7 years total throughout that I tried to get a divorce. The first time he didn't want to get the divorce the first time, and that caused me to have to go into survival mode the first time when he was gone for 3 years. And that was the time that I had to get out and, get it how I live.
Okay, so we're before the divorce.
Correct.
So you're talking about survival mode. So what do you mean by survival mode? What does survival mode mean?
Okay. When he was initially incarcerated, I had 4 sons at this time. I was 20. I was in school to be medical assisting, and I was also working at the airport. When he was incarcerated, I did not have anyone that could really watch my kids like I needed to, so I had to stop. And in stopping, I went through challenges at work at the airport, and from that, eventually, I wound up doing adult entertainment in Atlanta and Miami and Columbus, and also flipping product to make money. And in doing that, that's how I was able to survive for a period of time before I was divorced.
Okay. So while he's incarcerated, you become a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
And you start hustling. 'Cause
Correct.
you're flipping money, and we're not sugarcoat. I don't sugarcoat.
Well,
All right, so
we don't, I don't know what it's.
flipping, she's hustling, and
Correct.
you're a stripper. That's
Correct.
what you had to do to survive. It can't, no judgment. We don't really care what anybody
Right.
thinks. This is your truth. This is your truth, and it brought you to this moment right
Correct.
now. And your truth is going to help. That's why I don't want you to say flipping, because a person that's a hustler right now, a teen girl who's doing it, she's not going to understand what flipping is. She wants to relate to the fact that, oh my gosh, I have to do the same thing. And I'm watching her now and where she is, so I may not have to do this. There may be another way. What did she do to get there?
Okay.
Right? So we have to, I like to, especially with my Phoenixes, keep it as real as possible, because you're here to, you don't know who's watching
Correct.
and who you're inspiring. I know you may feel judgment from the story, but we don't care about that.
No.
We don't care about that, because your story is going to inspire someone. Your story is going to inspire someone. So
I'm being mindful because I'm supposed to be, I don't know if this is supposed to be kid friendly or not. So that's really why I'm
we
being.
can keep it child friendly, right? We can keep it child friendly, but use real stuff so they understand.
Okay.
But that's a lot, That's a lot for someone to go through. So we were talking about the span between 17 and 25, right? And everything you had to do. So you had to, like we said before, you had to start stripping. You were hustling. And you had you grew up in the church. So there had to be some type of mental battle. Or did you have a mental battle between what you knew and grew up to be ethically correct, right? Morally correct, versus what you knew you needed to do on a day-to-day basis to get things done? How did you stay focused through that?
Okay. My mother told me that I made my bed, I had to lay in it, not to depend on anyone. Those are my children. That's my responsibility, and I needed to do what I had to do to take care of them.
Right.
I'm sure she did not expect for me to strip in the club.
Yeah.
She didn't expect for me to be the bootlegger in the neighborhood. She didn't expect for me to flip narcotics.
Take her soda.
Right. She didn't expect that because that's not how I was raised. However, the church didn't have a whole lot of solution for me. The church told me oh, this is your husband. You need to pray. Just pray and pray it away. And that wasn't working.
Right away.
So when I had my children, they needed to eat, and I had bills to pay, and confused about why my husband was away,
Right.
and trying to be supportive of him, and also putting up with the changes at work that I felt like were unreasonable as a single mother of 4. So those are the things that I did. When I wrestled with my morality versus survival was going to win, and it won.
I like that. I like survival one. So we're going to talk more with Prima after the break. We'll be right back after this.
Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. And to Prima's own self, I'm going to be true. Although me being comfortable makes other people uncomfortable. And Just Prima is about me, my life, my ups, my downs, my trials, my triumphs. It's me being encouraging, empowering, and inspiring. I will say anything, you don't know what will come out my mouth, so don't be surprised.
Welcome back. We are here with Just Prima. with Prima, I should say, and we are doing an intimate interview. I am digging to the deeps of Prima, but we're answering the questions that all of you want to know about her. So right now we're at the point where she's 25, and if you've missed it, you've missed a lot. But the last thing you said before the break was you mentioned the word survival. You had to do what you needed to do to survive. Now, has that been, and I often talk to women who've gone through similar situations, and that word is the theme of their life. You know, that word is what they use to push them through from, time and time and time again. So now you're 25.
Mm-hmm.
You're 25, you're divorced. You decide that you're no longer taking it. He's been out of the house more than he's been in the home. You've been doing it on your own now. However,
Mm-hmm.
you needed to do it. You're 25, and where are you now? What are you doing? You decided to get divorced. You're not happy with the job. What does Prima do now? 25.
At 25, I sitting in the club at 23-ish, sitting in the club, and it's Freaknik in Atlanta,
Huh.
Olympic time, 1996.
Oh, don't we know
I
about
remember
that?
sitting in the club and observing my surroundings, the activities that go on in the dressing room, from the sexual activities to the lesbian activities to the drugs, and my spirit saying, hey, like, it's more for you to do than this.
Yeah.
And if you break your leg, it ain't no workers' compensation, girl, what you gonna do? I was in school for psychology and I stopped because I was in survival mode because I had children to take care of. But I knew that I wouldn't leave. Like a lot of girls that's in the club, they say they're gonna quit and then they come back. Then they quit, then they're gonna come back. You retired and they come back. You retired at 20 and you come back at 20, 21. For me, I knew I wouldn't leave until I knew I wouldn't come back. So when I made up my mind to leave, it was challenging because I went to work a regular job. I remember going to work at Target.
So let's talk about, because I know one of the things that you said, the reason, let's explain why girls don't like leaving, so they understand the attraction. It's the money.
Correct.
So you decided that, and you said the girls keep on going, come on, they leave, they come back. It's the money. We see it in sports, we see it, money attracts you. So you decided that I'm not gonna leave until I know I'm never coming back.
Correct.
And did you keep that commitment to yourself?
I did. But what I realized is that being in the club, it allowed me to be in control of men, where for so many things in my life prior to that, men controlled my life, from the molestation, from the allowing someone else to adopt me, from me being adopted, from me being almost raped with someone in high school, from me being married as a teenager and me being left as a teenager or a young mom. So me going to the club allowed me to be in control of men. It wasn't fun, it was a job. And I knew that men will pay, it works. And me leaving, at that point, I wanted, my spiritual part kicked in and I wanted to be healed. And I also knew that I was more than the club.
Did you feel that leaving the club would take away that power you had over men?
No.
So you kept that power that you had gained
Correct.
during that time at the club?
Correct.
Good for you. Good for you.
Correct.
So now you're at Target.
I went to Target and I worked as an operator, like, hi, thank you for calling Target. Being there, and I also sat in the dressing room so people could, change clothes and all that. My first check was, I was like, bleep, bleep.
It was a great shock, right? A huge shock.
Yeah, I worked all week, and I think my first check was like $280-something.
In comparison to what? What was your average weekly at the club?
It depended on the week, but I know I could make that 200 plus in less than an hour that it took me
So
a
what
whole
was your
week to
average?
work.
Yeah, what was your average week? Give me an average. Give me.
On an average week, I would say maybe 3,000, depending on when I went to work. Because you have slow days, you have busier days, you have regular clients. Being in the club, I did a lot of counseling as well as dancing, but more counseling because I'm listening to your problems. I'm talking to you about your wife and your children, and I'm still listening to the songs. And I'm like, okay,
So
sir,
performing.
you at 150, you want me to still talk to you? And you buying my drinks? So, yeah.
So you have 3,000 that you left, and now your first check at Target is 200.
280 something. Yeah.
Well, you know the exact number, 200.
280 something. I remember that. And I was like, the heck going on? No.
What do you think? What the heck's going on?
Absolutely.
But you still didn't go back.
I didn't go back. Because I typically am a person that believes that your word is your bond. And I don't make rash decisions. I think things through typically before I do it. So I didn't leave until I made up my mind I wouldn't go back.
So you pushed through Target.
Yes.
How long did you work at Target?
Probably maybe 6 or 7 months. Then I went to the painters local. I thought I wanted to be a painter. Like, I'm all about the money. So, you know, I had kids and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go paint the Georgia Dome. So I painted the stripes in the Georgia Dome, you know. It was hot. It was messy.
Did you
but I
make
was
more
determined.
Did you make more than you did at Target?
Oh, yeah. Made more money, but I had to work hard also.
Yeah, painted the Georgia Dome.
Right. On
Not
the
my
inside,
choice.
just the stripes on the tip, you know.
Anytime you go to Georgia Dome, she painted the stripes.
It's gone now. I think
It's gone now. It is gone.
Yeah,
it's Mercedes Center now.
Something.
Yeah, it's Mercedes
Yeah,
Center now.
something.
So
Yeah,
she painted the stripes on the dome, which no longer exists, so we can't go see her work. But take us forward. So let's move past the 20s now. Let's get into your 30s. Let's get
Well, let
into
me
your
back
30s.
up.
You want to back up? Where we're
Little
backing up
bit.
to?
When after leaving the club and working at Target and all of that, eventually I felt led to go to Bible college when I'm praying about my life and my purpose and all of that. So I go on, fast forward, like first I went to an organization called Overcomers, which Overcomers is a group where we get together like the 12 steps, and it was called Adult Children.
So take me back, because there was a time when the church disowned you.
This is another church.
Right. There was a time when the church disowned you. Whatever church. To me, church. There was a time when the church disowned you. And now you're going back after all these challenges, after basically doing it on your own.
Right.
Without, you had your mom, and I'm not saying you didn't have the church, you had your faith. And I believe that once you have your faith and your spirituality, no building
That's
can
all you
suffice.
need.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but now you come back 360, and with everything that's happened, all the rejection that you received, you decide that you want to go into Bible school.
Well, I know that God led me to go to Bible college, and in going to Bible college, it led me back. It took me back to being 15 and pregnant. And 15 and pregnant, my prayer being, God, teach me to love and accept people as they are, because everyone has a story. So going to Bible college initially, I felt rejection again from women and men in the church. One, I have tattoos all over. I was a divorcee with 4 children.
If I gotta cut you, if you didn't say that to me, I wouldn't have.
Good.
Yeah, I wouldn't have paid attention to that.
So, but in the church,
The church, yes.
So, being there, being told that, one, women don't belong in the pulpit. However, you have tattoos on you as well, and you're a divorced mother of 4. So the pulpit may not be the place for you.
And how old are you at this time?
26, 27, 28.
You're young.
Yeah. Go on, finish Bible college. At this point now I have this stamp of approval from my mom, who's like, oh yeah, now you're, and then all the relatives who kind of disowned me or had the negative things to say, not my mother, but the other relatives. Now I got, their approval, the church people.
So you go through when you get to Bible college, you feel the rejection again.
Correct.
But you keep on pushing.
Correct.
Again.
Correct.
Okay. And a constant, you keep on saying, my mom.
Yes.
My mom. But we're going to get to that in a minute. We'll get to her in a minute. Because I believe the queen should be the last conversation. So you're in Bible college. You don't care about the rejection.
Right.
You're going to keep it pushing. And you finish.
Correct.
How do you feel in the moment?
I feel great. I had 4 sons. I had a great GPA. I was able to tell my sons that if your mom can go to school and she can take care of the 4 of you by herself, and we ain't missed a beat, like, you have no excuse to make bad grades. You have no excuse to not push through. So I felt good.
You felt good.
I felt good.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations. So now you are a minister. Is that right?
Well,
Now you're a minister.
I have ministered. Let
You
me
have
say that. I
ministered.
have ministered. And at that point, I was doing youth ministry at 2 churches. And then I decided I didn't feel like I was ready because I didn't want to be on Front Street.
What do you mean? You don't want to be on Front Street?
I didn't want to be on Front Street because I feel like I'm just Prima. So although I've preached and I am comfortable in smaller settings and with the lay people, so to speak, I'm comfortable there. But for me to be in the pulpit or to be elevated was uncomfortable for me. And I did not want to, because again, I wasn't perfect. I was still a single mom trying to figure it out with 4 preteen teenage sons. I was also trying to also learn me because I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Still very young.
Right. So I didn't want, when I went to Bible college, I didn't want my parents' religion. I didn't want my grandmother's religion. Why I felt led to go was because I wanted to know God and my Creator for myself. And I felt a lot of pressure from going to Bible college and being in these churches because you're supposed to look a certain way, dress a certain way, you're supposed to speak a certain way, you're supposed to be in this clique and that clique and that, and that was not necessarily me. I also felt like there were times that I may have a glass of wine. I didn't want to be judged if I was at a restaurant because I know I didn't want to be a stumbling block, bottom line. I am a person that may use profanity every now and then. It could be laughing, it could be angry, it could be all of that. So to put myself on Front Street, now I'm putting myself out there to be judged and ridiculed when I have gone through so much of that. So that's the reason why I chose not to. And it cost me later, but that's the reason why I chose not to do it that way.
Not to do it that way. And you said it cost you later. For sake of time, we're going to move to right where it cost you later.
Okay.
So one thing I admire is that you chose your own path, right? Because you and I have spoken before, and you're more of a spiritual being. We talked about religion versus spirituality. Right. She's more of a spiritual being. Know that about her. If you're not, you know. So I respect that because some people, especially at 27, 28, 30, I had no idea. I literally lived in everyone else's vision for myself at that age. So I respect you and admire you for that at such a young age. So you said you regret what you decided doing. What happened?
Not that I regret it. It just cost me.
It cost you. It cost you. I'm sorry. She said cost, not regret. No regret. She said cost. So how did it cost you?
Well, my mother told me that I should get out of my head, stop overthinking it, and just do what God was leading me to do, which was reach the people. What I was telling her is that I didn't feel like I was supposed to reach the people in the way that the church was trying to have me to conform or do it. When I didn't, my rebuttal was, I don't want everybody in my business. I don't want everybody to know. I don't want to be a public spectacle. And that was at the end of in 2006. And in 2007, me helping at a youth ministry, a young lady did not tell the truth and said that my grandmother and myself and my children kidnapped her and held her against her will. From that, we winded up on news, the newspaper, the internet. So I felt like at that point now I'm on Front Street. So my whole world was turned upside down, where prior to this, I thought my ministry was just, I'm a teen mom. I've been married, divorced, been in the club. I have 4 sons, single mom, and life is happily ever after. But life turned upside down at that point. We were incarcerated, newspaper, internet again. And where I was this private person, I was angry with God. And I felt like, oh my God, you raped me. You put me out here on Front Street and not everybody. But then it was because it was brought to my remembrance. Okay, you worried about what people think, but it's bigger than you. And so this is the consequences. And where you thought your ministry was this, your ministry is much more than that. And the 15 years ago from now, March was 15 years ago, I feel like my life and my ministry will be or is more impactful than it was when I thought ministry was just ministry.
So let's go to when you said, it cost you and you had made that decision. Do you believe, because I'm a spiritual being, so I believe God, discernment. So I believe when you ask for certain things, he shows you in certain ways, not necessarily the way that you want to see it or you expect to see it. When you ask for purpose, I feel he brings you through a lot of pain. So you went through some pain.
A whole lot.
You went through some pain. And you say that your decision cost you, but it may just been the path. You may not have listened, so God had to show you something else. But we don't know. But so you get it. This person lies because you went over it really quick.
Right.
So a lie cost you how many years of your life?
15 years, because from 2007 to 2022, I have not had all of my children together, but for 4 hours of my life. And that was in 2013. I have 6 sons. So in 2013, which was the day of my mother's funeral or her homegoing. So yeah, it cost a lot.
I'm gonna take you back here. I'm sorry, because this lie cost you 15 years.
Yeah.
So we need to delve into the lie a little bit. Tell me about this person, because you say you took her in. She was in your ministry, right? So tell me about this person and how it went from that to you being incarcerated.
Well, I drove a Tahoe because I had 4 teenage sons, preteen. In the neighborhood, whatever kids come, hey, I'm going because I'm doing the youth ministry. So everybody load up. The little girl, 13, 14, I had never seen her before. She was at my next door neighbor's house. And my next door neighbor's mother let her come to church with us. So this is her friend. We go to church, we leave church, we come back home, everybody disperses and goes wherever they're supposed to go. The next day, my grandmother said that the young lady was trying to get in the back door. I was at work, my children were at school, and 3 o'clock in the morning, the police was at my front door and at my back door with guns drawn. My grandmother gave the little girl to the police. The police were looking for her because she had been a runaway.
So she was in your house now?
No, she wasn't in my house. She was trying to get in the house. So my grandmother was like, hey, I wasn't there, but my grandmother was like, what you doing? Like, why you not in school? And her explanation was she lived with her sister. Her sister had gone out of town. She didn't have a way to get in the house, and she was trying to find somewhere to go. And because she knew that my children were in the house or at their home, which was the next door neighbor's friends, that she tried to get in. So my grandmother called the police officers. The police came. They knew who she was because we stayed in a small area. And the police took her to the precinct and said they were going to give her to her mom. I wasn't there for any of that. All I know is that at 3 o'clock in the morning, the police was at the front door and at the back door with guns drawn. Open the door, blah, blah, blah. You know, at first you're thinking they're at the wrong house, one. Open the door. They zip tie us, put us on the floor, go upstairs, get my children, zip tie them. 3 of them go to juvenile, 1 goes to jail. I go to jail. My grandmother goes to jail. And in going through that alone, I thought bailing out the next day, myself and my grandmother. A week later, I have Cochran's daughter at my door like, hey, y'all were arrested. What's going on? And so I thought it was private, but it wasn't.
So she went to the police department and said that y'all kidnapped her. Is that basically what happened?
Correct. Because she didn't want to go. Later on,
She didn't want to go home.
No, she didn't want to go to boot camp because that was going to be her punishment because she was, I guess, a habitual runaway at this time.
So because of that, everyone in the house was arrested.
Correct.
Including your teen sons.
Correct.
So everyone has a record now.
Correct, basically. 2 years, 3 years later, it was, she told the truth,
but
But
everyone still has a record now, or been through the experience.
Correct.
And you've been separated now. Everything that you have fought to keep together all these years.
Correct.
Everything that you would struggle through and hustle through and challenge through to keep together a lie.
Right.
Just broke it apart.
Correct.
So we have a few more minutes, and I want to talk about your mom.
Yes.
We can't have the show without talking about her mom. You've heard her say her mom so many times. May her soul sleep in peace. If you could describe what your mom was in your life, could you do that for us right now?
My mom was My mom was my constant. She was my constant. My mom pushed me. My mama was the unconditional love, not always approving of who I was, or not always approving of how I showed up, because she was different. She was, more conservative and classy, and she didn't use profanity, and she didn't dress a certain way, and all of that. But she was always constant. She was my constant. She was the one constant in my life. She was the one that didn't change. She loved, like I said, she loved me unconditionally. She pushed me. She encouraged me. I felt loved by her. I felt empowered by her. I felt like, and she let me know that the things that she wasn't able to do, she was proud of me for being able to be Prima. You know what I'm saying? Because she wasn't that. But what she reminded me of, and even at her funeral, I played the song Wind Beneath My Wings. And before she transitioned, I sang that to her because she was truly the wind beneath my wings. Like, I was always able to be verbal and speak and show up and shine, but she was that for me.
Nice, nice. Now I want to talk to your sons.
To my sons. Okay.
You have 6 sons.
Okay.
You said that because of what happened, because of that lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it again. The one thing that you fought to keep together throughout your entire life, everything was on survival because of your children. That lie separated you guys. So I know your sons are watching from wherever they are. What you guys say to them? What you guys say to the men?
What I have to say to my sons is that I am the constant in your life, and I'm sure you know that. I love you, and I'm always proud of you, and whatever you've experienced and whatever you've been through, like I tell you all the time, it's not the end of the road, it's a bump in the road. I know that we're supposed to do ministry together and reach other people, and this is just a part of the story. This is a part of our ministry, and it's not for the breaking of us, but it's for the making of us, and so that we can reach other people.
And lastly, to the significant other in your life right now, because you went through a lot. You had to find power through a bunch of defeat. You had to survive through a lot of challenges. And now I think you have a consistent in your life, something that you have sought for a very long time. So this is what we're doing. We're giving our messages. We're telling our, so what do you guys say to them?
I appreciate the patience.